Today is Friday, the 17th of July, and the Iran-US war seems to be escalating given that infrastructure is now being targeted. So we're going to go into what has been targeted in the past 2 days in Iran and also in the Gulf countries. Mensch Onsent on X has done a good summary of the targets for the past 2 days. So interestingly, we have Syria now part of the mix of the targets that Iran has hit. It has hit radar systems, several special operations helicopters, and large number of U.S. soldiers based on what the IRGC has said it has hit. So there might actually be some casualties, U.S. military casualties in Syria. Now, Iran has said that if Syria is going to get involved in Lebanon, then they will target Syria. But seems like they're already starting this targeting because they're seeing some movements of Americans moving some of their assets maybe away from the Gulf countries because they see that as a risk being targeted from Iran to other places like far away from Iran, a bit further away from Iran, such as Syria and, of course, Jordan. So Syria is part of the mix now. In Jordan, continuing the attacks on U.S. fighter jets and fuel tankers at the Muwaffaq Salti Air Base. In Kuwait, you have the HIMARS site. These are the sites. HIMARS are these launchers, platforms that launch missiles into Iran itself, not defense missiles, offensive missiles. So they've hit the missile defense radar, the U.S. ammunition depots, two HIMARS launchers, an ammo depot, and U.S. forces and logistics center. So big hits on Kuwait, the biggest out of everyone, to be honest with you. And in Bahrain also, they hit some P-8 Poseidon positions and helicopters positions. The Poseidon aircraft are reconnaissance aircrafts. So they're used for a lot of intelligence and being aware of what's going on around you. So interestingly, given that Iran has said they targeted these aircraft, we're seeing additional P-8 Poseidon being deployed in U.S. bases in the region coming from Italy. So we can track them coming from Italy going to Jordan, and we don't know whether that's going to go to the Gulf. And that matches with basically Iran saying that they've hit some P-8 Poseidon aircrafts. And also they've hit helicopter positions. Also, Qatar was part of the targets in the past 2 days. They've hit long-range radar and refueling aircraft. So again, a lot of the airplanes that are being used to attack Iran are not actually based, a lot of them, in the Gulf countries. They're based on the aircrafts in the sea, but they're based in Jordan. But to attack Iran, they have to be refueled mid-air because they don't have enough fuel to go all the way to Iran and come back. So there is all these refueling aircraft in the region that assist, the aircraft that's doing the attack from being refueled in the air and going back. So, the Gulf countries can say, some of the Gulf countries can say, none of the bases over here are being used to attack Iran. Well, they're being used in another way, indirectly, by refueling the air jets that are doing the attacks. So maybe the aircrafts that are doing the attacks don't fly from air bases in the Gulf countries, but the refueling definitely does. So, without the assistance of, or the Gulf countries allowing their bases to be used against Iran, America wouldn't be able to do as much damage as it's doing right now. In Oman also, they've hit naval and air radars. So interestingly now, compared to previously as part of the other, the initial part of the war, Oman wasn't part of the target, and definitely Syria wasn't part of the target. But now it seems like Oman, they're telling them, hey, you're kind of siding with America, and it seems like America's using your land to carry out attacks on us, and I know you're trying to be neutral, but we're going to go after those U.S. assets and facilities. Also, the UAE was attacked, I think maybe 3 days ago, not 2 days ago, but we can see here, reports circulate that IRGC has graciously remodeled the 3 U.S. military buildings in Zayed Military City. This is Abu Dhabi, UAE. And we can see over here that they have been damaged. This is 11th of July, this is 16th of July. So between 11th of July and 16th of July, there has been attacks on this area that facilitates U.S. assets, or stores U.S. assets. And we're seeing at least 10 C-17A of the U.S. Air Forces from bases in Germany are heading towards U.S. bases in the region this morning. Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, UAE. So these carry equipment, and it seems like they're replacing a lot of the, so these are coming from Germany, going all the way to across the region, it seems like they're replacing some damaged equipment that Iran has damaged in those Gulf countries. Now, the reason why I say this is escalated is because it seems like, in addition to the U.S. attacking military assets of Iran, they're starting to attack infrastructure, civilian infrastructure such as bridges. So apparently, a total of 5 to 6 bridges in the Hormozgan province were targeted. So there's the bridge that's connecting Bandar Abbas to these other places. The bridge after the village on the route from Bandar Abbas. So Bandar Abbas, if you don't know, is this place over here. It is apparently where, with Keshem, Bandar Abbas, that area is allowing Iran to influence what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz. Now, even if America destroys this whole place, they're not going to be able to allow free passage if Iran doesn't want free passage in the Strait of Hormuz, because Iran has drones. I mean, look at the coastal. This is all of the coastal area of Iran has missiles, drones that could be launched into ships that are not working with the authority in Iran to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. And remember, for Iran, this is pretty much their only leverage to pressure the U.S. to meet the conditions that were set as part of the MOU. And if they lose that leverage, if they lose the Strait of Hormuz, then America doesn't need to apply any of the points in the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding. So that's why Iran, from its perspective, has to control the Strait of Hormuz until at least all the conditions are met from the Americans regarding the Strait of Hormuz, such as the unfreezing of assets, Israel leaving Lebanon, unsanctioning of their oil, removing sanctions, and no more threats against Iran. So America is kind of really targeting this area to degrade Iran's ability to control the Strait of. But they've attacked the Chabahar maritime tower. This, I'm assuming, provides Iran ability to see, whether it's radar or otherwise, to see what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz. They also attacked a railway station west of Bandar Abbas. So a lot of it is on the coastline near Bandar Abbas. And they also apparently attacked a civilian airport. So you could say that this is being used to ensure that it's degrading Iran's ability to control the Strait of Hormuz, but it could also be a kind of process of ensuring that the supply to this area is degraded in case of a land invasion. If the U.S. is crazy enough to do a land invasion, one of the things that they would start doing before doing a land invasion is degrading the ability to supply this area with, whether it's ammunition, whether it's food, or even water, to make it harder to resist attacks or long-term attacks on this area. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to land. I can't imagine the U.S. doing a land invasion in July or August when temperatures are, 45, 50 degrees Celsius. They will probably wait until the end of the year or even next year, to do such a insane thing. But, they start degrading from now. So the IRGC, as we said, targeted it's a surprise attack, a covert special operations center in the Al-Tanf military base, killing several U.S. soldiers based on what the IRGC is saying, and hitting a radar system and several helicopters. In Kuwait, they've hit, as we said, surveillance radar, missile detection, several weapons depots, and apparently in Jordan, they've damaged fighter jets, F-35s, F-15s, F-16s, and refueler aircrafts in 2 phases with ballistic missiles and drones. RGC says several fighter jets and refueler aircrafts were destroyed and several sustained damage at the Muwaffaq Salti Air Base. Also in Iraq, RGC ground forces carried out a rapid drone and missile operation against several positions housing U.S. forces and mercenaries under the U.S. and Israeli command. This is expected to be either Kuwait or up north in Iraq, where in the Kurdish areas. And over here we see this was apparently it hasn't been confirmed, but apparently the Babco petroleum facilities in Bahrain were hit. This is a refinery kind of area. So we don't know whether it's not confirmed yet, but it's a big hit from the smoke that's coming out. This is in Bahrain. So apparently this is Iran struck American HIMARS systems in Kuwait. So this is apparently HIMARS systems. These are the platform launchers that launch missiles into Iran, offensive weapons that are in Kuwait. Apparently that was attacked, and this is the footage of the damage. Interestingly, additional U.S. F-16 fighter jets are getting deployed into the region, and these are refueled by the KC-135 tankers. Is this we need more assets to carry out extensive attacks, or is it replacing the F-16 fighter jets based in Jordan that Iran said that they damaged? It's a interesting coincidence that Iran said they've damaged F-16 fighters, and then next we see more deployment of F-16 fighters to the area. This is actually the bridge that was attacked in Iran. Interestingly, in the FT, it's kind of detailing how cyber attacks tried to track down American personnel in Middle East as Tehran attacked forces in the region. And it describes basically, or actually confirms, in several countries, the U.S. dispersed personnel to hotels and other less prominent installations in order to protect them. In Bahrain, for example, a missile hit the Manama Crown Plaza Hotel, which received multiple contracts to provide lodging, laundry, and other services to the Defense Department, according to a government expenditure database. So, the U.S. is hiding the U.S. personnel in hotels in the Gulf countries. And apparently, according to the FT, that's why Iran targeted the hotels, because they knew that U.S. personnel were hiding over there that were being used to conduct operations against Iran, especially at the beginning part of the war in early March. So where is this Iran-U.S. war heading? Well, what I expect to happen in the next couple of days is that the U.S. is going to escalate, and it's going to, from its mind, it thinks that hitting Iran harder is going to make Iran concede more during the negotiations, because as if all the shock and awe that they did in the first initial phase of the war did achieved anything in terms of Iran giving any concessions. It did the opposite. Iran was giving more concessions during the negotiations before the war started than it is right now. And every time the U.S. attacks Iran, it's going to get less concessions from the U.S. What I expect now, Iran to even entertain the idea of negotiating with the U.S., they're going to ask upfront for things. They're not going to say, oh, let's negotiate, and during the negotiations, we'll get the unfreezing of our assets. No, they're going to be like, you have to unfreeze our assets right now, or at least some of it immediately, before we even be part of any negotiation. Because there's zero trust, as we've seen with this MOU, as we've seen with the JCPOA Obama deal that was agreed, that Iran was meeting all the conditions, that Trump just came and ripped it apart. So there's zero trust from the Iranian perspective. And so what Trump is doing is going to backfire, because he's going to get less every time he escalates with Iran. But in his mind, he thinks we just need to hit them harder. And if we hit them harder, if we cause more damage, then they're going to want to stop the war and say, please, please, Mr. Trump, stop the war. He keeps on playing in his mind that they're begging us to make a deal. He's been saying that since I think a week after he started the war in March, that Iran has been begging the U.S. to end the war. I don't know who believes that. I think Trump believes that, because Trump creates things in his mind, it seems like. So the U.S. is going to escalate, and it's starting to hit infrastructure in Iran, and it's going to continue to degrade the infrastructure, especially around the cities on the coastal, such as Bandar Abbas, that it believes helps Iran control the Strait of Hormuz. And in Iran, what it's going to do is just make sure that all the U.S. bases in the Gulf countries are not going to be operational. Whether it's the radar systems, whether it's the storage facilities, whether it's the Patriot systems that defend against missiles, whether it's the all the air jets, all the refueling airplanes that are based in the Gulf countries that help refuel the air jets that are coming from the aircrafts in the sea or from very far away places like Jordan to carry out attacks on Iran. Well, they're going to attack those refueling aircrafts, making sure that the U.S. cannot operate for the foreseeable future in those U.S. bases. But for Iran, they're playing it very strategic. They are only going to escalate if the U.S. escalates, but they're not going to match them. So that's one of the reasons why they're refraining from hitting, oil infrastructure, because they know if they hit oil infrastructure, their oil infrastructure is going to be hit. So they're only going to hit oil infrastructure if their oil infrastructure is going to be hit. So that creates a deterrence. Instead, if they hit the oil infrastructure, then that creates an incentive for their oil infrastructure to be hit. Now, will the US land troops in Iran? I think the probability of that is very, very low. It's more likely because one, right now the temperature is 45, 50 degrees. It would be insane to land troops in such temperatures. Two, it will be a massacre because Iran will just plummet them with drones and missiles and everything that they've got. And so how are they going to protect themselves? I mean, they can't even protect the US bases. How are they going to protect, US personnel in the middle of an island or in the middle of, a place where they don't have existing structures? The US doesn't. So what's more likely to happen is either they're going to outsource the landing to, for example, Kurdish militias or the Baluchis in the eastern part of Iran, where they're trying to train them, where they're trying to fund them to create the land kind of invasion, which essentially reduces the cost for the US because the biggest cost for the US isn't the money. It's, coffins returning to the US of dead soldiers. That's going to be the biggest cost. And so Trump wants to avoid that, obviously. And the way to avoid that is either you outsource that to groups such as the Kurds or the Baluchis, which the U.S. is obviously trying to do, especially when it comes to the Kurds. He's mentioned that a couple of times. It seems like a lot of training that's happening in the Kurdish areas in Iraq, where Iran is now attacking. It has continuously attacked a lot of Kurdish assets because it's saying that the Americans are clearly trying to prepare for something over there. Or you also send in contractors. And this is what America did in Afghanistan also and Iraq, whereby, if a U.S. contractor, so this is a private contractor that is employed by a private company that provides security, it's very different to a U.S. soldier. If a U.S. soldier dies, that's front page news in the U.S. If a U.S. contractor is a private contractor, essentially a mercenary, who's paid by a private company, dies, that's not even going to be in the front page of the news. Because that's just, a private contractor died. Yes, he might be a U.S. citizen, but it's not a U.S. soldier. That's a different impact psychologically on a nation if your soldiers are dying versus private citizens that are choosing to be there themselves because of, getting paid to be there. And they get paid more than, obviously, U.S. soldiers. So it will probably try to do U.S. contractors as opposed to really put in all their U.S. soldiers out there. And of course, support from the air, which they're very good at, to ensure that the defense systems in Iran are heavily degraded for that. But that's going to take a lot of time. We're looking at, at least the end of this year, more likely next year, because they also have to replenish all the ammunition that they've used, which, for some of the ammunition that they've used in terms of whether it's missiles or defense missiles, like aircraft missiles or actually defense missiles like the Patriot, they've used, years of their missiles. Some estimates say from, 30% all the way up to 80% for some of those interceptors especially. So that's going to take, a while to kind of replenish that. And that's why you see Trump is now proposing a 1.5 trillion budget, the defense budget. Why is that? Well, that's because they've lost so much assets in this war, and they have to produce so much ammunition for the next stage of this war. We'd love to know your thoughts on whether you think the U.S. is going to escalate even further. Is Trump going to go and hit the power plants as he said he would next week, and bridges? He's already started doing that, but even further. Or he's going to tackle again and says Iran's begging him for a deal when and actually entered into a deal with Iran, which I'm finding very difficult to see. But we'd love to know your thoughts. So if you did like this video, do hit the like and subscribe, and we'll see you very soon.